All right, this is Clint from the Doorway too, hanging out with Andrew from Low Before the Breeze. First of all, thanks for doing this, man. I totally appreciate it. So
Hey, thank you. I appreciate anyone taking the time.
cool, cool, cool. So why don't you tell us a little bit about how the band started and how it got to be where it is right now in 2025?
Well, yeah, Low Before the Breeze started around the summer of 2021. I put up a Craigslist ad, and our now drummer Jonathan answered, and we had kind of a rotating cast of members come and go until we found the right fit. But eventually, it ended on the four that have been with us for about a year. That's myself, Jonathan on drums, John on guitar, and Dennis on bass.
Awesome, cool, cool. So I'm going to jump right into the latest record because that's what I heard first. We're going to kind of go backwards to the two EPs that I listened to afterwards because I heard
Sure.
your full album first. So to me, the reason why I wanted to talk to you is because of this record. It is the most insane mix of like noise, industrial, hardcore, and doom that I've ever heard from a band in quite some time.
Thank
So can
you.
you kind of can you kind of talk to me about A Hole Beneath the Home We Shared, and how did it come to be this? Like, because this is not something I think that would just be the plan to start with. It sounds like it kind of naturally evolved into something like this.
Yeah, man. First of all, thank you for all the kind words. We do some kind of abrasive stuff, so when someone's excited on it, that's always super cool. Yeah, it's just sort of like the sum of our influences. We all have really unique kind of approaches to what we like out of music and what we like out of heavy music. I like a lot of the noise. I like a lot of really, really messy, chaotic hardcore. Our drummer's more of like a straightforward death metal, thrash metal kind of guy, which you can probably hear in the way he keeps us held together.
Yep.
Our other guitar player, like he loves like alternative rock and classic rock and country, and that's why there's some melody sort of tied in with the chaos I want to do. And Dennis, who is secret, our bassist, is secretly just the best musician in the band, and can outshred all of us. And kind of he adds that technicality, or they add that technicality that kind of again keeps things from just being the wall of sound that I would create.
It's always the bass player who's the most talented one, right? Like
Oh
everybody
my
always
God.
thinks it's somebody else. It's always the bass player.
Yo, we knew Dennis for like 6 months. They had been in the band, and we only knew they played bass. And then just on Instagram, there's this video of them sweep picking on a 7 string guitar, just insane stuff. And we were just like, "What the fuck, brother? Where did that come from?" I was like, "Oh, I like to play."
That's awesome. So I want to talk about the vocals on this new record
Sure,
because
sure, yeah,
they harken back to it. So I'm an old man. I'm 52. All right. So I've been
okay,
listening to this kind of stuff forever since the 80s. Uh,
right,
so like I said, but it harkens back to like His Hero Is Gone and like Cop Shop
yeah,
and like Kiss a Goodbye and Dead Guy. Like I kind of get those vibes of like that late 80s, early 90s, like really pissed off hardcore that was almost noise rock, but like they were
yeah.
too goddamn talented to be a noise rock band by themselves kind of situation. So the vocals kind of give me those vibes. Like being that you did the vocals, what were your influences? Were the bands that I just mentioned at all? Anything like that were kind of inspired for what you were doing?
Oh, absolutely, man. Those are some of the bands that I first fell in love with. Everything that kind of came out of that circle, and then a lot moving forward. A lot of the screamo stuff from the '90s. Your Page 99s, Majority Rule. Circle Takes the Square. All those kind of bands. But a lot of it is just sort of that's what I know how to do. Like that's just what comes out when I push. So I don't know how different they could have been if I tried something different, you know?
Fair enough. Absolutely fair enough. But they work so well. Like you said, there's this odd melody throughout the entire record that kind of unhinges the chaos and kind of brings it all together. So I agree. Like I think that's one of the reasons why this record has kind of spoke to me so much. So yeah, the vocals mixed with the way the music are layered, with the kind of almost industrial kind of electronic moments sometimes you
Mhm.
feel going on there. It really does mix it all together. So that's awesome.
Thank
Uh,
you.
yeah. So the new record almost kind of feels like we'll kind of layer it on top of that because it kind of is bringing to me where I want to talk about the next part. So the
For sure.
record almost feels like this unmade book or movie soundtrack. Like I almost like when I listen to it, I feel like it's this. It could be a visual thing all the way through for every single song. So at the
Mhm.
end of the day, when you were making this record, what was it, an entire story in your mind, or was it just like vignette pieces that made this? Because it almost feels like it could be like a book or a movie.
I mean, not to get too personal, but these are all moments taken from my last couple of years. I
Mm.
survived some domestic abuse, went through some other situations, some things like the angry voicemail stuff. Those are real messages that I've gotten in the aftermath of that, and this is sort of just the document of my kind of 2022 to 2025.
Gotcha. Makes sense.
Yeah,
Yeah. Sorry about all the struggles, but I'm glad you made it through, man, and I'm glad you and I got to talk right now. So that's fantastic.
absolutely. Yeah,
Cool, cool.
it's a happy story in the end because I'm here, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Uh, so let's talk about the two EPs,
Sure,
because
yeah.
I kind of want. They feel like very different bands to me. Okay, like those
Yeah.
two EPs to now. Like when I listen to A Kindly Bent, or if I listen to That Which Still Aches,
Mhm.
it kind of feels like a noisy hardcore band with kind of like maybe black metal vocals or screamo metal
Mhm.
vocals at the time, and it almost feels like you had a huge love for like bands like Converge, like when you did those
Yeah,
two EPs. So like, can you
totally.
kind of can you kind of talk about how those two EPs kind of became, because this new record is so very different than those two like 3-song EPs. So
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, so this is my first time kind of being like the the person coming up with the ideas in a band. This is the first time I've been doing the primary vocals, first time I've been playing guitar, and those EPs are sort of me just learning what I'm doing. I liked Converge a lot. I wrote things that sounded like Converge. Before I started this band, it was COVID lockdown, and I decided I was just going to learn to play like All of You Fail Me by Converge. And so
nice.
like that's very much on my mind at the time. But also a big piece is just like this LP is the first time that we've had John, the other guitar player, actually able to write. Everything else was written before his time in the band. It's the first time Dennis has been on it as well. So those first two EPs were really much more of like my stuff that I had written, me figuring my shit out. And now not only do I have an idea what I'm doing, but I'm surrounded by these two other very, very much more competent than myself musicians that can help me make something. And the through line the whole time's been that Jonathan's just been playing drums like a monster. That's the one connective tissue between all these releases for sure.
Nice, nice, nice. Awesome. So if there was one song that I pick off the new record, so I'm going to bounce back to the new record.
Sure.
If there was one song I could pick off the new record and just play it for somebody and say, if you like this song, listen to this goddamn band, it would be Same Joke Twice. And the
Okay.
reason why I say that is it mixes the chaos, it mixes the beauty, it mixes all the layering of all the stuff that's going on like throughout the chaos and the mellow moments of the record. Can you kind of talk about that song and like how did it come to be? And
Yeah, it was I think it was the last song we wrote as a full band in the practice room. We went into the studio with two that were just demos that we fleshed out there, but it was the last one that we put together in the practice space. So the way that it had started was a lot more choppy and a lot more kind of screamo-y sounding. It was actually a song that I was not psyched on to begin with. I thought it sounded a little too much like some of our older things. But as everyone kind of chipped away at these ideas in that first half, it became more and more of what, like, I like to think about it as sort of like a noise rock grind song,
yeah,
if that makes sense. Um, and it just slowly started to gain its own personality. And then by on complete accident, John came up with that really do me part, and it was sort of like we meant to just do it in 4/4, but we accidentally did it in 15/8, which was funny. And we were like, that sounds off kilter in such an interesting way. So he sat down and counted out his riff, and he was like, no, we got to do it this way.
Cool.
And that's sort of how like the second half of it became its own thing.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say it's like two different songs put together, but they work perfectly, kind of intertwined together, and that's why I was saying like it kind of does everything that you do as a band. And if there was one song that I would have to play someone and say like, "Here you go, if you like this, you will love this band," that one kind of has all the pieces of the puzzle. Even the vocals to me are a little bit different on that one. There's almost like this there's almost like this unnatural melody on the vocals for the first time on that track versus everything else that goes on. Like I almost feel like there's this melody line that you're kind of scream singing. I guess that's the best way to kind of say it. So.
Yeah, definitely. I see what you're talking about. I appreciate all the kind words about that one. It turned out so much better than I thought it would. I've been very happy with that song.
Cool. So there's two songs on the record that I'm going to talk about. And now that you kind of gave me a back history on it, the one that I like may make me more disturbing than I think that I should be. So, so the first song that like when I heard it, all I could think of was like, I don't know how much you know, like Cold Meat Industries, industrial music back from the 90s. But so there's a band called MZ412. And you have this song called Collective Messages of Abuse. And it's a really short track. It fucking reminds me of the darkest, most insane tracks from MZ412. So like that's what it reminds me of. Like if a hardcore band became a power electronics band, like that's basically what this reminds me of. So like I said, when I heard that, I immediately kind of was like, okay, what's going on here? I got to not just listen to the record, I got to really dig in and listen to it. The other song that like probably is my favorite track on the entire record is Permission to Rest. And
me too.
Right. And the reason why is it has the most controlled chaos I have heard in a song in quite some time. Like it almost feels like it's about to just go off the rails, but you never let that song go off the rails. It's the most beautiful, frustrating song I've ever listened to in my life. So can you kind of talk about those two tracks and like how they came to be and like, a little bit about them?
Yeah, sure. So I'll start with Collected Messages of Abuse. Like I mentioned a little earlier, those are made out of messages that I got from an ex-partner who was arrested for assaulting me. And I wanted to do something with them. Originally, I had them included in some quieter parts in other spots on the record. And we decided that the songs should breathe on their own and to kind of make something out of that. So the guys trusted me to just do my full-on like producer mode. So I kind of went in with programmed some drums and did that whole thing kind of based. And that song's sort of a peek into what I listen to more. Like I'm really big on like The Body or Sightless Pit or these bands that are just harsh electronic industrial music. And I decided we worked with this producer, this engineer who mixed the record named Simon Small. And he kind of helped me add like 3D layers to the song to kind of make it more of an interesting product. He put some delay in places and kind of synced that to the beats and just kind of helped me make it something listenable. But that song's like insanely personal to me due to the content of the audio and something that there was a lot of discussion on whether it was a good idea to put it on the record or not. So it's cool to hear that you enjoyed it. So that's that one. Permission to Rest is one of the two songs that we came in to the studio unfinished. We walked in with demos that we kind of ran out of time. And it was that and Cadaver Synod. We had never played as a full band. They were just sort of demos. And that song kind of, when I was writing the bones for everyone, very influenced by like Sumac or the other Aaron Turner projects with kind of like the almost like free metal kind of situation going on. some influences from bands like Chat Pile that are just sort of like take that industrial guitar and beat you over the head with it. Yeah, that's sort of, if there's a most me song on the record, you picked the two most me tracks, which is, very flattering.
Nice.
But yeah, did that answer a question?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I
Okay, cool,
totally
cool.
hear I totally hear the chat pile in it too. Like now that you say it, like that was like all of a sudden that bell just rang. I was like, oh my God, yeah, I hear it. And yeah, the Aaron Turner side that I hear in that song now that you say
Mhm.
that too is House of Low Culture. I don't know if
Oh
you like House
yeah,
of Low Culture. Like it reminds me of
absolutely.
like because so like the guitar manipulations he does in that band is just phenomenal. And I think maybe that's why I dig that track so much. So cool, cool.
Oh, thank
Um,
you.
yeah, absolutely, man. So Terminus Hate City.
Right.
I know very little about this label. All I know is I've been digging deeper since I started listening to your records. So
Oh,
they have
cool.
some really interesting artists on this on this. How did you
Yeah.
come to work with them outside of being from Atlanta? And what's the best thing about working with them?
So Jay, who's sort of like owner operator of the label, he operates out of the same building that our practice space in. He's always booking shows. He's really involved in the community. What really sold it for me, my favorite band in Atlanta is Apostle, who are label
Mhm.
mates with us. We went on tour with them, which was a dream come true for me. And they couldn't stop singing Jay's praises after working with him. And eventually, Jay, who he also writes for a local magazine, did a piece on us, and the conversation just kind of unfolded from there. And as far as like the best thing about working with a label like that, it's when you're working with someone that's right down the hall, it's a lot easier to get things done. Jay works his ass off for us and for all of his bands. And this is something that he really loves. He's not doing it to get rich. He's doing it because he likes heavy and unique music. So that's a really cool thing.
Cool, cool, awesome. Yeah, nice. So I guess I'll jump into that because you were talking about recording the record versus kind of writing songs and things like that.
Mhm.
How do you feel the band is different on record versus going to see the band live? Like, what are the major differences that someone would get in a live experience versus you in the studio doing your thing?
Um, Honestly, live we are a mess, and that's on purpose. I'll climb things. I'll be dangling off stuff and not playing my guitar. John will just fall into the crowd. Dennis is rocking out. We're very influenced by your non-polished hardcore live band. We're trying to give you the best approximation of our music and the tightest set we can do while also having a good time. We're not those dudes that just stand still and play their songs perfect.
Gotcha. And in the studio, uh, like you said, you only brought a couple songs in. Do you like
Mhm.
do you like to kind of organically write things while you're as a group in the studio, or is it more just a necessity because it's easier to be able to kind of riff together rather than like you write a song and then kind of teach it to the band or something like that? So,
Yeah, so in the studio, I think this is like pretty common with a lot of bands like First Records. A lot of these songs had been floating around in our camp for a while, right? We had been playing Faithful Dreams, Proverbs, and Loss of a Kingdom for over a year live. So those had just been they'd been there. There was no prep. We had once Dennis joined, obviously we had to teach them the parts, and they changed it to fit their personality. But so right off the bat, those are three songs we've just been playing. Um, in the studio, the two that we were Cadaver and Permission to Rest that sort of we had to put together in the room. Those were two that were just demos rather than like fully lived in songs. Um, and that was a mess that we probably never want to have to do again. But we had some deadlines and we had booked some studio time, and just sometimes when you're not doing this for much money and life, other things take priority, and it's like, oh shit, okay, yeah, we have to go in now. If we don't do this, we're not going to do it. But yeah, it's whenever we can collaborate. it's always 1,000 times better. The guys make my ideas so much better than the shells that I walk in with.
Cool. No, awesome. So I know these are kind of older songs. You've had some time to grow and kind of live
Mhm.
with them. Do you have new tracks that are ready to go, or are you the kind of band that like, okay, we're going to focus on this record, and then once that's done and we're tired of it, we move on to new tracks?
Oh no, there's a lot of music that's it's not recorded yet, but it's fully demoed out and ready to get in the studio hopefully in the next couple months for some split releases with some bands that we respect a lot. Some a couple of short EPs. We're not quite ready to take on a full length record right now. I think that's a whole mindset, but we have a lot of ideas to kind of explore little bits and pieces of our sound.
Or are they very similar to what you're doing now? Very different? Are you moving into a different direct? Are you adding different layers to it? Like, how are these new songs versus what we've heard already?
Well, one of my big goals is I want to do, and we're intending to do sort of like a 7 inch of just straight sub-minute rippers, just sort of get the meanest thing that we could possibly do, mean, fast, no frills, and then we want to explore sort of like the longer experimental elements on some other tracks, and kind of just see how we can grow those little parts before we come back as something new for the next record.
Cool. All right, so this is going to be a perfect segue into what we're talking about. So
Sure.
let's say some kid picked up your brand new record and you were in the store and you heard them talking about your record. In
Mhm.
4 words, how would you explain your band to this kid?
In 4 words,
Yeah.
I would say emotional, noisy, abrasive, and mm, I, I I'm going towards brooding, but that's not what I mean. Like something, I'm sorry, I'm at a loss for the right term, but enveloping maybe. I don't know,
All
something
right,
like that.
yeah. Why enveloping?
I really pride myself in atmosphere. I love all the Aaron Turner stuff. I love your Cult of Lunas. I love all that so much, and I wanted to very much make our record sound like it was intentionally setting this mood that kind of swallowed you, rather than just be something you listen to.
Nice. Yeah, I'm gonna side with you on that because when I listen to the record, I can't kind of just side listen to it. I have to kind of sit there and envelop it. Maybe I'm a strange person, but at night I'll put my headphones on and I'll just listen to it and fall asleep to it. Like that's kind of
Um,
like the way, yeah, yeah. But I mean, I think that's the way most musicians are. Like we kind of like what we like, we listen to, and we just kind of take it, infuse it, and make it our own as well too. So like that's very cool
yeah,
that you said it like that.
yeah, man. I fall asleep to Neurosis all the time.
Well, that was another band I was going to talk about. So maybe we're on to kind of this vibe, which is nice. Uh,
Yeah, hell yeah.
I was going to say, like, you remind me of very kind of like Enemy of the Sun Neurosis. All right. That, like,
Okay,
that
love
period.
that.
All right. Like, Through Silver and Blood is amazing. Don't get me wrong. It's probably one of the greatest, like, hardcore metal, doomy records ever made.
Oh
But,
yeah,
but when I listen to you, I like, you are the chaotic part of Neurosis to me. Like, and Enemy of the Sun was like when they were their most nasty and vicious before they decided, okay, we're going to sign a Relapse and have this really big budget to make this grandiose record. And I feel
yeah,
like you guys are doing with what you have everything you possibly can. And Enemy of the Sun feels that way for me as well. Like Cult of Luna, I can hear too, for sure. But I definitely hear more of like Kiss a Goodbye or His Hero Is Gone mixed with
yeah.
like that Neurosis period. So I kind of wanted to ask, like, do you feel like you're more a hardcore band? Do you feel like you're more of like a metallic noise rock band? Like, where do you think the band lies right now with this brand new record?
So, first of all, I want to say thank you because, man, being compared to in the same sentence as Neurosis is such a honor. That's one of the bands that taught me to love music. But, you know, this isn't entirely apparent from someone that's just listening to the record, but we are very much within like a hardcore scene. That's sort of like where our bread and butter is with our peers, with our friends, with the most of the shows we play. So I think that from like a mindset, we are certainly a hardcore band. I think that the metallic influences are slowly taking over. But I think that this record is sort of us at a crossroads between those two.
So if you had to pick one side right now, which one would you side more with the hardcore side, or would you not say that you're moving away from the hardcore? Because I think early on the EPs were much more of a hardcore focus. I think this new record has so many other elements going on. So
Yeah, I never want to be just one thing. I think that the hardcore is becoming a smaller part the further we go. I could say that for certain.
cool, awesome. So here's a thinking kind of man's question. It may take you a second to have an answer. If you need some time, I'll jump into other questions. It's fine.
Sure.
But if you could have any one artist or band take your music, record it, and make it their own, who would it be and why?
Take my music and record it.
Yeah, and make it their own, like make it their style of music. Who would you love to hear record your band?
Man, my favorite musician is a pop artist by the name of Billy Woods.
Okay.
Sort of like an underground hip hop musician who does these gorgeous soundscapes that largely have influenced what I tried to shove into this record, and largely influenced a lot of the way that I chose to write lyrics. And if I could hear him kind of, especially like mangle our sounds into sort of his industrial and horrifying sounding beats, that would be very cool. So I'm gonna go with that one.
That's awesome. Cool. So let's talk about Atlanta for a second. So
Sure.
back in the mid 90s, early 2000s, I was touring a lot and we played Atlanta a bunch of times. It was a very, I guess the best way to say it, tough city to get respect in. Like if you weren't part of the initial scene in there, a lot of people were kind of not there to be for you. Over the years, I feel like Atlanta has become a much more embracing scene, especially with all the music that's going on. So I kind of wanted to ask you, over the years, how have you felt like Atlanta has changed your sound, your feeling, your vibe of the stuff that you're making?
Yeah, so for context, I'm 30 years old. And I started playing in bands in Atlanta in around 2013. So I've been at it for a minute. I'm younger than some guys, but certainly a lot older than a lot of the kids that we play shows with.
Yep.
And I can remember in 2013, 14, 15, the kind of the cliques surrounding hardcore and heavy music. And I can remember having a really hard time getting good shows, or getting anyone to come to shows. And I think that the way that culture has evolved and the way that kids and the younger generations treat each other, a lot of that clickiness is just it's different than it was, and it is a more welcoming space. And I don't really think that's just Atlanta. I think that's heavy music in general, or at least in the circles I'm in. And honestly, at this point, I mean, maybe it's just because I'm old and I've paid my dues, but I feel like the kids are the peers, everyone. I think it's a very welcoming environment at this point, very constructive.
Yeah, over the last couple of years when I've been to Atlanta, it's been a very different kind of vibe. So that's why I was saying, like, it seemed like bands were helping each other out a lot more. People were caring about the music a lot more. There was a lot of kind of underground venues that were popping up all around Atlanta, which were never there before. So that's very cool.
Absolutely.
Yeah, awesome. So if there was one band you could tour with, that would be like the best package for, your band and that band, who would you want to tour with?
Let's see. So I've already said Apostle are
Yeah.
my favorite band in Atlanta, but I'll give you a more interesting answer than just gushing about my favorite. Band that I think would be, you know what? I'm gonna put this out into the world. If Portrayal of Guilt would like to take us out on tour, I will quit my job and go get in the van with Portrayal of Guilt. So that'll be my answer.
Have you seen them live before?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
good.
A lot of times. Most recently with Chat Pile here in Atlanta, and that was a hell of a show.
Yeah, because they put on a hell of a powerful show. That's why I was asking, man. So that would be very impressive. Uh, so here's another kind of brain thinker for a second. So, like I
Sure,
said, not that I'm wishing ill will towards your band, but I always like
sure,
to kind
sure.
of get a thought on it. Like, let's say today was the band's last day. You guys just
Mhm.
knew you were calling it. It was good. Like you're happy with everything it is. What would you
Mhm.
want to most be remembered for?
Um, I would want to most be remembered for our live shows. I think that we are just much more visceral than a lot of peers. Not all of our peers, but we pride ourselves in being like the scary band at the hardcore show. And I like to think that 10 years from now there'll be some dudes that are my age now sitting around and be like, "You remember that one fucked up band that they were jumping in the crowd and climbing things and rolling on the ground?" And that would probably be it. I'd be content with that.
Cool. So, what is the biggest misconception about the band? Like, if there's one thing that people take away from the band that just isn't true and is total bullshit, what would it be?
Um, this is probably true for a lot of folks that play heavy stuff, but I think there's especially like reading, it's impossible not to read stuff people write when your first record comes out. But I think people think we're a lot like darker than we are. We're like, my memories of all these songs, even though like it's very serious subject matter, I'm thinking about all of like the dick jokes we were talking about while we were writing them, or like just whatever dumb stuff. We're really friendly and approachable. We're goofs. We all work office jobs. We're not just brooding in our caverns. Yeah, that's probably it.
Oh, I get it. I get the same thing. I make harsh noise, industrial music, and kind of doom music, and I'm signed to a label in the UK called Aesthetic Death, and
Okay.
I get the same vibe all the time. Like everybody thinks I just sit in my room with no lights on and think the most hateful thoughts possible, and I'm not. I'm an IT
Yeah.
manager for a web hosting company. I got buddies. I go to Comic Cons all the time. Like if you come talk to
Yeah.
me, we're gonna bullshit for hours about the most nerdy of nerdy things. So I love that. That's fantastic. So I
Yeah,
got a couple
absolutely.
more. Yeah, I got a couple more questions before we wrap it up and I let you go.
Sure.
So like it's Low Before the Breeze. That is an
Yeah.
interesting band name. Where the hell did it come from?
Are you familiar with the industrial hip hop band Clipping
No.
by chance? Okay. They are like an experimental hip hop band. That mix harsh noise with like traditional MC vocals.
Okay.
And it's literally just "Low Before the Breeze" is a lyric from a song called "She Bad." It's very funny. People think it's something more than that, and it's just talking about the temperature changing. It's just yeah, just "She Bad" by Clipping, one of my favorite bands of all time. A record called "Visions of Bodies Being Burned."
Nice. I would definitely have to
Yeah,
check it out.
yeah,
For
very
sure.
cool stuff.
Absolutely. Is there anything that's off the table for the band? Like, is there something you wouldn't incorporate into the music?
Like your traditional like metalcore clean choruses. Like we would never do that. I'm pretty anti like traditional breakdown. I fight that pretty hard. Most of just the trappings of your like hyper clean produced 2010s and forward metal. I always want to be. Jacob Bannon from Converge once said that I like my metal played by punks, and that's sort of the way that I approach everything. I want it to be very dirty and very just maybe a little bit out of tune, a little bit out of time. That's kind of always going to be our MO.
Cool. So being that I'm just talking to you, I'm going to ask you about the other three members, and you give me your thoughts about them. Because
Sure.
I kind of so let's talk about your drummer, because we kind of had the big talk about how he holds everything together. If there was
Right.
one thing that makes him so important to the band, what would it be?
It's 100% songwriting. I'll come into the room with an idea and I'll say this riff, I'll have it on a demo and it'll be this riff playing to a click or to some drums I programmed. And he'll be like, okay, grab your guitar. And he'll go play it and he'll do a thing. And he'll be like, now again. And he'll just do it until it's something worth listening to. It's incredible.
Cool.
His ability is just insane.
Awesome. So let's jump to the other Jonathan, the guitar player. What is one thing that shocks you about him every time that you get to hang out with him?
So John is just the most abrasive human being on the planet, and he not in a mean way. He's just this loud, goofy guy that will make me laugh so hard every time we're together. I can never believe, especially like on tour, the depths of John have never been reached. It's always deeper.
Nice. So Dennis, the new one of the band, as you say, the most talented one of the band.
Most talented, yes.
Yeah. So what is one thing that you would say that is their hidden secret outside of being a very talented musician?
So Dennis is this very soft-spoken individual. Like volume is low. Words are chosen wisely. They're so tactful, and then just out of nowhere, the most out-of-pocket shit you've ever heard will just come out of their mouth, like from the back of the van, and it's so funny. Is that I hate to say the funny thing for two of them, but like, yeah, I can't repeat these things on air, but just some things that have come out of Dennis's mouth, I've been like, that's the funniest shit I've ever heard. Added with the fact that they're 10 years younger than John and like 8 years younger than me, so it's like. We get this like this young kid lingo that we don't that we don't know. Like we're like, what the fuck are you talking about? And it makes for a great mix.
Oh no, I totally get it. My niece and my nephew who live with me are in their mid-20s, and they say things and it just goes straight over my head. I totally get it. I don't know what they're saying. Like yeah, I totally get it. I love them to pieces, but they say things I just have no understanding of. So what I'm going to do is kind of give the end of this interview to you to kind of talk about what Load Before the Breeze is going to be doing, what's coming up. Tell the people out there what's going on.
Yeah, so we are promoting this record hard, trying to sell some copies over on Bandcamp. We are planning a run of shows to the Carolinas here next month. Not announced yet, but will be soon. We should be going down to Florida in August. Okay. And we will be starting tracking for a couple of split releases with some good friends here soon. Hopefully those will see the light of day in early 26. But pretty open-ended right now. We just got back from tour, so we're pulling ourselves together after that.
Cool. So I'm going to end it with this, and you can kind of talk, and we'll kind of close it this way.
Sure.
What has been the most interesting review or feedback you've gotten of the new record so far?
Well, first of all, the one that's been most interesting to me has been how kind you were about the record. So we'll start there. So thank you, sir. Someone called us like deeply disturbing, and I was just like, you haven't listened to much of the shit I've heard if we're deeply disturbing. So that was the most interesting. I was like, you haven't listened to Throbbing Gristle if we're deeply disturbing. Yeah, probably that. I won't name the reviewer, but that was funny.
Yeah, you may want to listen to a White House record one time and kind of.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. You might think deeply disturbing is a different moment. No, I totally get it. No, but Andrew, man, thank you very much for doing this. I appreciate it. The new record it's phenomenal. people are idiots if they don't get this. I don't care. Like, I'm going to be honest. Like, it's one of my favorite records of 2025 right now. I don't do a lot of reviews and interviews, and especially I don't do a lot of interviews. But when I love a band, like, I want to talk to them, and you made me want to talk to you. So,
Hey, thanks so much, man. I appreciate your kind words, and I appreciate you taking the time. And after this, shoot me the shit you're putting out. I would love to hear your music.
I will send it on over. Not a problem at all. Other than that, this is Clint from The Doorway 2, hanging out with Andrew from Low Before the Breeze. You have a great night, man. Thank you for doing this, and good luck with everything in the future.
Thanks so much, man. I'll talk to you soon.